The Blackwood family reunion was being held at the same tired community center it had been in for 20 years, complete with flickering fluorescent lights and the faint smell of basketball practice. I sat at one of the long tables, picking at my potato salad while my relatives discussed their impressive careers. So Marcus just made partner at his firm, Aunt Patricia announced, her voice carrying across the room. Youngest partner in the company's history. Now that's what I call success. And Jennifer's medical practice is expanding to 3 locations, Uncle Robert added, beaming at his daughter. She's building an empire. I smiled politely, knowing what was coming. The family success roundup always ended the same way. And then there's Evelyn. Aunt Patricia's eyes found me, her lips pursing in that familiar expression of disappointment. Still teaching, dear? Still teaching, I confirmed, taking a sip of my lemonade. Same school. She said it like she was asking if I still had the same disease. Same school. 15 years now. 15 years. She clutched her chest dramatically. In the same classroom. Oh, honey, when are you going to admit this teaching phase isn't working out? You could have been anything, a lawyer, a doctor, an executive. Instead, you're wasting your life in a classroom with other people's children. Teaching isn't wasting, I started. Please, Uncle Robert interrupted. Let's be honest. Those who can do. Those who can't, teach. And those who can't teach, well, they stay in the same dead-end job for 15 years. Laughter rippled through the family. Cousin Marcus, the newly minted partner, leaned back in his chair. What do you make now, Evelyn? 40,000. 50? I make that in a month. Good for you, I said mildly. It's not about the money, my younger cousin Brittany chimed in, though her tone suggested otherwise. It's about ambition. Drive, making something of yourself. Evelyn's just given up. Remember when she graduated summa cum laude? Aunt Patricia shook her head mournfully. All that potential wasted on finger painting and ABCs. I teach high school, I corrected. Advanced placement literature and creative writing. Same difference, she waved dismissively. Babysitting teenagers who won't remember you 5 minutes after graduation. I thought about my students, brilliant, challenging, unforgettable kids who kept in touch years after leaving my classroom. But I'd learned long ago that defending my career to my family was like teaching Shakespeare to a brick wall. Less rewarding, actually. At least tell us you're dating someone successful, Jennifer said, apparently trying to throw me a lifeline. A doctor. Lawyer? Someone who can support you properly. I'm single, I said, by choice. Of course you are, Aunt Patricia sighed. What successful man wants to date a teacher? They want partners who match their ambition, not someone who grades papers all weekend. Speaking of grades, Uncle Robert jumped in. Did you hear about Marcus's bonus? 6 figures. That's what real achievement looks like. The comparisons continued, each relative taking turns explaining why their career choice was superior to mine. I sat quietly, letting their words wash over me like I'd done for years. The failed teacher, the family disappointment, the cautionary tale they told their children about wasted potential. Evelyn could have been somebody, I heard Aunt Patricia whisper to Brittany. Now look at her. Probably still driving that ancient Honda, living in some tiny apartment, shopping at discount stores. It's really quite sad. I was about to excuse myself. 15 years of these reunions had taught me when to retreat when the community center's doors burst open. Is this the Blackwood reunion? A young man in an expensive suit called out, slightly out of breath. I'm looking for Ms. Evelyn Blackwood. It's urgent. Every head turned. I'm Evelyn, I said standing. Is everything okay? His face lit up. Ms. B. Thank God. He turned and shouted toward the door. I found her. She's here. What happened next felt like something out of a movie. People began streaming through the doors, well-dressed adults, some in business suits, others in designer casual wear. The parking lot outside filled with luxury cars. Mercedes, BMWs, Teslas, and yes, several Rolls-Royces. What's happening? Aunt Patricia demanded. I was wondering the same thing when I recognized the young man who'd called out. David Chin. You remember me, he beamed. Of course you do. You remember all of us. He turned to address my confused family. This woman, your relative, saved my life. Literally saved my life. David's being dramatic, I said, embarrassed. I just taught. No, a woman stepped forward, and I recognized her immediately despite the designer clothes and perfect makeup. Sarah Martinez, you taught me sophomore year. I was failing everything, ready to drop out. You spent every lunch tutoring me, convinced me I was smart enough for college. Sarah, I couldn't hide my delight. You graduated? Where did you? Harvard, she said simply. Full scholarship, then Harvard Law. I'm a partner at Whitman and Associates now. And I'm here because David sent out the bat signal. Bat signal? I asked, increasingly confused. More of my former students pushed forward, all talking at once. Ms. B is in trouble. What's wrong? Who do we need to sue? Is it money? I can write a check right now. Wait. David raised his hands. Sorry, I wasn't clear. She's not in trouble. But I was at the farmer's market and overheard some people talking about how their relative was a failed teacher who'd wasted her life at Franklin High. Sarah's expression darkened. Failed. That's what I said. David continued. So I sent out the group text. What group text? I asked. The Ms. Blackwood Changed My Life group, a new voice said. Dr. James Patterson. I taught him 20 years ago, walked in wearing scrubs. 347 members and counting. We share updates, life wins, all inspired by you. 347. I sank back into my chair. Ms. B, Sarah knelt beside me. Do you have any idea what you've done? How many lives you've changed? I just taught English, I said weakly. No, James said firmly. You taught us to think, to question, to believe in ourselves when no one else did. Do you remember what you told me when my dad said I'd never be anything more than a mechanic like him? I thought back, that there's nothing wrong with being a mechanic, but you should choose your path, not have it chosen for you. And then you helped me apply for pre-med programs, wrote recommendation letters, checked in on me through college. His voice cracked. I'm chief of surgery at Columbia Presbyterian because of you. The community center was filling up now. Former students kept arriving, each with a story. Maria, the shy girl who'd barely spoken, now a Broadway actress. Kevin, the foster kid who'd aged out of the system, now running a tech startup valued at $2 billion. Jasmine, the teenage mother who'd nearly dropped out, now a pediatrician. Michael, the struggling reader, now a best-selling author. Wait. Uncle Robert interrupted. You're telling us these successful people are all here because of Evelyn. Because of Ms. Blackwood, corrected a man in an expensive suit. Anthony Rogers. She taught me senior year. I've been rejected from every college I applied to. She spent her own money to hire a college counselor for me, helped me rewrite my essays. I got into Yale. Now I run a hedge fund. He looked at my relatives with cool assessment. And I'm guessing you're the family who thinks she's wasted her life. The silence was deafening. The failed teacher, Maria said, testing her words. Is that what you call her? The woman who stayed after school every day to help me with my stutter. Who came to every terrible high school play I was in. Who told me I had a voice worth hearing. We didn't know, Aunt Patricia said faintly. Of course you didn't. Sarah's voice was sharp. You were too busy measuring success by salary and status to notice that Evelyn was shaping the future every single day. Remember that time you mortgaged your house? David suddenly asked me. To pay for SEG prep courses for kids who couldn't afford them. You mortgaged your house. My mother, who'd been silent until now, gasped. It was refinancing, I said uncomfortably, and that's private information, David. Nothing's private in the Ms. B network, he grinned. We all know about the college fund you started, the food you snuck to hungry kids, the prom tickets you bought anonymously. Okay, that's enough. I stood up, overwhelmed. This is very sweet, but... Sweet. A new voice interrupted. A woman in a power suit strode in, presence commanding attention. This isn't sweet. This is overdue. Diana? I stared at Diana Washington, now CEO of a Fortune 500 company, whose face regularly graced magazine covers. Ms. Blackwood, she nodded formally, then broke into a smile. Flying in from Tokyo when I got David's text. I wasn't missing this. You flew from Tokyo? Aunt Patricia squeaked. Do you know what this woman did for me? Diana addressed my family. I was a black girl from the projects with a drunk mother and an absent father. Everyone wrote me off. Except her. She saw something in my angry, defensive 16-year-old self that I couldn't see. She turned to me. You remember the essay I wrote? The one about being invisible. The one that made me cry. I nodded. You felt like the world had already decided your story. And you wrote in the margin, then write a better one. 4 words that change everything. You kept me after class and said I had a gift for seeing systems and patterns. Said I could either use that gift to work the system or change it. I remember. I chose to change it, with your letter of recommendation, your endless belief, your refusal to let me settle for less than extraordinary. Diana's voice was fierce. Forbes called me the most influential Black woman in tech last year. You know what I said in the interview? That everything I am started in Evelyn Blackwood's classroom. The failed teacher, Sarah repeated, looking at my relatives with disgust. The woman wasting her life. Tell me, which of you has launched 347 successful careers? Which of you has messages from former colleagues saying you changed their lives? Marcus, the new law partner, shifted uncomfortably. We didn't. I mean, we thought. You thought wrong, James said bluntly. And why you were mocking her for driving an old Honda and living in a small apartment, she was investing everything she had in her students. Do you know why she drives that old car? Because she spent her car fund on laptops for kids who needed them for virtual learning during the pandemic. 60 laptops, David added. We tried to pay her back. She refused. Stop, I pleaded. This isn't necessary. Yes, it is, Diana said firmly, because your family needs to understand something. Success isn't measured in salary or status. It's measured in impact. And by that metric, Evelyn Blackwood is the most successful person I've ever known. Which is why, Anthony said, pulling out his phone, we've been working on something. The Blackwood Foundation, fully funded and ready to launch. Our way of paying forward what you gave us. What? I stared at him. Educational scholarships, teacher support programs, resource funds for underprivileged students, Sarah explained. Everything you've been doing alone, but with our backing. The initial endowment is $50 million. $50 million. My knees went weak. To start, Diana confirmed. We've all pledged annual contributions. You changed our lives. Now we're going to help you change thousands more. I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. Around me, my former students continued sharing stories, each one a testament to moments I have forgotten. The extra tutoring, the lunch money slipped discreetly to hungry kids, the recommendations written, the dreams encouraged. But she never told us, my mother said quietly. Any of this, the mortgage, the scholarships, the laptops. Because that's who she is, Maria said simply. She doesn't teach for recognition or praise. She teaches because she believes every kid deserves someone who sees their potential. Even when they can't see it themselves, Kevin added, especially then. Aunt Patricia was crying now, mascara running. Evelyn, I'm so sorry. We assumed. You assumed a teacher couldn't be successful, I said gently, and by your definition, maybe I'm not. I don't have a corner office or a 6-figure bonus. But I have this. I gestured at the room full of former students. I have hundreds of kids who grew up to change the world. And honestly, I wouldn't trade that for all the law partnerships and medical practices in the world. The reunion, Uncle Robert said faintly. We were supposed to be celebrating family success stories. You are, Diana said coolly. You're just too blind to recognize success when it doesn't come with a designer label. The afternoon dissolved into chaos. Beautiful chaos. Former students swapping stories, taking pictures, planning the foundation launch. My family sat in stunned silence, processing the reality that their failed relative was actually the most successful person in the room. As the sun set, David pulled me aside. Ms. B, I'm sorry if we ambushed you. But when I heard them calling you a failure, you gave me the greatest gift, I said, having him. You showed me that the work mattered. That it lasted. It more than lasted, he said. It multiplied. Every one of us teaches someone else the way you taught us. That's hundreds becoming thousands becoming millions. That's your real legacy. As the gathering wound down, Aunt Patricia approached hesitantly. Evelyn is there. Could you ever forgive us? We were so wrong. I looked at her, really looked at her. Saw the regret, the shame, the dawning understanding of how small their worldview had been. There's nothing to forgive, I said. You value what you were taught to value. But maybe now you'll understand that there are different kinds of success. And maybe the next time someone tells you they're a teacher, you'll say thank you instead of what else do you do? As I prepared to leave, Paina stopped me. One more thing. We've arranged something, a small token of appreciation. She handed me a key fob. I looked at it, confused. Your Honda finally died last month, right? You've been taking a bus. Well, that ends today. She pointed to the parking lot where a modest but reliable new Toyota sat with a bow on top. Nothing fancy. We know you too well. But safe, reliable, and completely paid for. No arguments. I started to cry then, overwhelmed by the love and gratitude from students I'd taught over 2 decades. Thank you, I whispered. No, Ms. B, Sarah said, speaking for all of them. Thank you. For seeing us when we couldn't see ourselves. For believing when we couldn't believe. For teaching us that success isn't about what you have, it's about what you give. As I drove home in my new car, I thought about the day, about Aunt Patricia's words, wasting your life in a classroom. And I laughed, because if this was failure, I'd choose it every time. The next morning, I walked into my classroom at Franklin High, same as I had for 15 years. But something was different. On my desk was a note from my current students. We heard about yesterday. We're proud to be taught by you, your AP Lit class. I smiled, wiped my eyes, and picked up my worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. All right, everyone. Page 174. Let's talk about different kinds of courage. Because that's what teachers do. We show up. We teach. We plant seeds that bloom in seasons we might never see. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, we get to see the garden we've grown. The Blackwood Foundation launched 6 months later. Aunt Patricia was the first donor outside my former students, pledging a significant amount with a note, for teaching me that success has many faces. But the real success? It's still in room 237 at Franklin High, where every day I get to change lives. One lesson at a time.